This is my Mauser Model 1871 carbine, or Car 71 for short. I have two previous videos on it, one restoring it back to its original military configuration by adding this fore end and nose cap, and one where I clean out the barrel and shoot it. Getting it shooting is always the ultimate goal of any firearm restoration I do, which means I can circle back and clean up some odds and ends left over from the restoration. In the first video, I had said I was open to suggestions as far as what to do with the rifle's finish. The majority of you said to boil and card the barreled action and the rest of the original parts, and then apply some sort of finish to the nose cap. I was also open to suggestions as far as the wood finish goes. Most of you said you'd like some color matching between the old wood and the new wood. With some work ahead of me, I'll get everything disassembled in order to separate the pieces. While I'm disassembling, I'd like to make it known that I always strive to maintain authenticity and original patina wherever possible. I never want to restore anything to new or like new condition, because that would destroy the rifle's history. I like to be able to look at a rifle and wonder about the life it's lived, the conflicts it's experienced, and even including the abuse or neglect that it may have seen since that time. For that reason, I won't be polishing the metal back to in the white like these originally came, and I won't be applying any sort of poly or varnish to the stock. On the flip side, there's even some purists out there that say boiling and carding the metal is refinishing. Agree to disagree. Although, I'll be the first to say that not everything needs it, and it's not a magic cure-all solution. But here, in this specific case, it's something that can be done without any ill effects. With all that being said, I don't expect too much of a change in these parts' appearance. The dark color that's on most of the parts will likely remain after boiling and carding. I'm not going to boil everything, just what is visible from the outside, attached to the stock, the rear sight parts, bolt except for the firing pin, spring, bolt head, and extractor, and of course the action. The trigger looks to be in good condition, with a bit of fire blue left, so I'll leave it. Everything else is in the water here. I'll bring the pot up to boiling. For the barreled action, I'll use my steam tube here. I gently slide it down. Now that the water is boiling, I'll set the tube on top of the pot to allow it to fill with steam. I'll let this go for about 45 minutes. With all of the parts boiled, there's still a layer of loose rust on top of everything. To remove it, I have this soft carding wheel attached to a motor. I'll use it on all of the parts. With all of the loose rust removed from the parts, I again have all of them in this pot. I'll clean them of any water that may be left behind from boiling, and for good measure, I'll throw in the parts that I didn't boil. I'll soak all of these parts in kerosene. This will displace any remaining water that may be hidden in hard to reach areas, like the inside of the bolt. It will also further clean and degrease the parts. For the action, I have this separate tube that's capped on the bottom. I'll slide the action carefully down it. And then fill with kerosene. I'll let everything soak for at least 15 minutes or so. Once all of the parts are out of the kerosene and dried off, it's time to add oil. This is a non-detergent oil. I'll give everything a light coating. I'll let the parts soak in oil overnight before drying off and shifting gears to the next area. One part that I left out of the boiling and carding process is of course the nose cap and the screw too. I could rust blue these, but a nice even coating of blue just wouldn't look right next to the other parts. What I want is a poorly blued surface to let the rust go a bit further than just needed for coloring. The answer is on this crack bayonet. It was rusty and pitted, not too different from the Car 71 parts. The muzzle ring was broken off. I welded a replacement on, and then rusted it to match the rest of the bayonet's finish. I'll repeat that process on the nose cap here. On the crack bayonet, I used a mixture of hydrogen peroxide and table salt. There's no exact proportions. I'm just throwing together a solution. I have the nose cap on the block of wood so that I can avoid touching it, and I already have it degreased. Now to apply the solution. I'll brush it onto all of the outside surfaces, a generous coating. I'll let it sit for around 5 minutes. During that time you can see the rust forming. Instead of boiling to convert the rust right away, I'm going to leave this to sit. Over the course of the next week or so, I'll reapply the solution a few more times. It's been a full week, and I've applied the solution maybe a dozen times. I also experimented by heating up the nose cap and the solution with a heat gun, though it seems like the solution wasn't fully mixed, as shown in the uneven finish. I may have added too much salt to fully dissolve. I'll get this into the boiling water to convert for another 45 minutes. Here's the nose cap and screw after boiling. It's a lot darker, but I won't know the true results until after carding and oiling. Here's the nose cap. I think the uneven finish caused by the solution mixture is actually a good thing. It provides a depth and authenticity to the finish that's similar to the finish on the other areas of the rifle, like on the trigger guard here, though not as drastic. And color-wise, it's a good match to the part that it will be attached to, the end of the barrel. Before I join the nose cap to the barrel, I need to address the stock, namely the non-matching fore end that I added in the restoration video. Like most of my woodworking projects, I've applied a few extra coats of boiled linseed oil after it was called complete in the video, but this is still mostly the same as before. In that video, I had said that there's two things that make wood match, the color and the condition. But as a lot of you pointed out in the comments, there's actually a third, the sheen. That's what's different here. Well, all three actually. But it could be the sheen that's preventing these two from blending together better than they do now. You can see how the light is reflecting off of the old wood versus on the new wood, where it just absorbs the light. To add sheen to the fore end, I'll use beeswax. I'll first heat up the wood, then rub in the beeswax, then buff it with a shop towel. One thing I'm learning as I go is to not heat up the wood too much, only enough to be able to add the wax. If it's too hot, and then you go at it with the towel, it'll just rub off the wax. I'm letting it cool a bit before buffing. You want to use the friction of the towel on the wood to build up heat, working the wax into the pores of the wood. That's 3 coats total. Any more, and I fear it will feel more like wax than wood. You can see the sheen that the beeswax added. The fore end is reflecting the light, maybe not as much as the original wood is, but certainly a lot more than before. Of course, this doesn't make the two sections of wood a perfect match. The color and condition are still off, but at least on this side it's fairly close. That completes all of the issues shown at the end of the restoration video. At the end of the bore cleaning video though, I had mentioned that the chamber could use one final honing to remove any remaining roughness inside. I'll do that now. I still have the fired brass that I used before. Again, it's very important to thoroughly clean out any remaining valve grinding compound that remains. But with having fired a few rounds through this rifle previously, I'll give the bore one final cleaning with the big 45 Frontier metal cleaner before seeing if it looks any better. Shooting and boiling could have loosened some more rust. After shooting, boiling, and scrubbing once more, this is the bore. I wasn't expecting any miracles. This looks pretty much the same as it did previously. There's two final problems with the carbine that I won't be addressing, at least not yet. First is the missing rear sight spring. I may do a short gunsmithing quick tip video on making flat springs at a later date. Right now I'm not too worried about this, since I do most of my shooting with the sight ladder flat. And it's a tight fit in the base, so it won't pop up during shooting. The second is the condition of the butt plate, and this wood screw holding it on. I'm not sure what I'll do here. I'm keeping an eye open for a replacement, but I'm not holding my breath. For now, these will have to do. I'll get the rest of the carbine reassembled. That's the carbine complete. I agree with all of you. It certainly looks a lot better after boiling and carding, and with the fore end matching better than before. And especially with the blued nose cap. I'm glad I listened to all of you out there. The fore end still isn't a perfect match, especially on this side, where the original wood is lighter. But overall, it looks a lot better than it did before. And with the theme of this video being viewer's choice, I know I'll get a lot of comments if I were to end it here, without a trip back to the range. I reloaded the same cases as before, neck sizing them only, with a 44 Magnum seating die. The bolt feels a bit easier to open, thanks to the one final honing pass on the chamber. All 8 rounds extracted just fine. Nothing got stuck, and no cases split. Accuracy-wise, it's not bad. I was aiming a good foot below the target. This is a fun rifle to shoot. There's nothing quite like a big bore black powder rifle, and this one is packaged into a handy carbine. Thanks to everyone who commented their ideas and suggestions on the previous videos. And as always, thanks for watching.